All right, today we're going to paint this olive design. So what you do is you take a piece of tissue paper, lay it on top of your pattern, trace over it with a pencil, and then to get it onto your piece, lay it onto your, this one being a round, I cut some darts in it just to make it so it would lay down easier. Take the Statler Tri Plus fine liner, I think you can see that, and trace over it. This is on earthenware. If you're on stoneware or porcelain, you can use the ultra fine point Sharpie marker. This has a point to it just like a Sharpie, but it's water based. So you trace over it very slowly, peek and see if it's come through, which it did. You can also take this marker and draw directly onto the wear if you wanted to do a freehand design. Okay, it burns off in the kiln. So I've got kind of a broken brick area up here, and then we've got some background, and then I've got some scroll work, olives, and leaves. So what I'm going to do is put in kind of a watercolor modeled background in the background area. I'm going to use CS 606 parchment, and I'm going to use CS 682 natural. Always shake your colors. The color strokes are a opaque underglaze. I'm going to put some of that out. And what I'm going to do is create a wash out of these. So I'm going to put water in another well next to it. And we have a very small area, so it won't take much. And then I like to use my Sumi brush. This is the medium Sumi brush. It's a natural hair. Always start with the light color and work to your dark. So I'm taking a healthy scoop, or a generous scoop, 2 scoops into that water. Make sure you get it well mixed up. Remember that when you're making a wash, the color falls to the bottom, so you need to keep that stirred up as you're working so that all of your color doesn't end up in the bottom and you're not picking it up. So stir it each time. So I'm just going to kind of mush. I call it my slip slap mush. I'm not really worried if I get it on my leaves or olives, but if you're trying to stay off of it, you could also put this on all over and then come back and put your pattern on when it's dry. That would be another way. Just remember that when you do add moisture to the watercolor marker, whether it be paint or water, it is going to start bleeding or disappearing. So keep that in mind. You can always retrace, or like I said, you could do this first and then put your pattern on. You still will be able to see some of the design or the transfer. So I'm just going to kind of take the tip of it and get it into the areas where I want it in that background. You can always come back afterwards if you miss something also. Keep it stirred up. It needs to be here. Okay, that's up there. There we go. You can also put this on the back of your piece. Since I've got a whole bunch mixed up here, I think that's what I'll do. So when you're doing your mush, I call it slip slap mush, I'm constantly keeping the brush in contact with the piece. The only time I lift it is when I'm getting ready to load again. If you were on stoneware or porcelain, you would wax your foot of your piece. There is a tiny amount of frit in this color stroke formula, so you don't want it touching your shelf because it could cause it to stick. All right, so now I'm going to go into the natural, the 682. I'm going to try one scoop to start with to see if I can see it, which I can. And I'm just going to kind of randomly place this. I'm not going to do it all over. Just to give it kind of a mottled look. If you have an area that you don't like or you think it's too strong, then rinse your brush and come back and soften the edges of that area to make it blend into what you've currently got there. Okay, so we can just go in here and randomly add some of that color. And always come back and add more at the end. Once again, blend it if you feel like you've got an area that you need to do that. Okay. All right, so it's just kind of mottled or stucco kind of a look. These are bricks up here, so we're going to use some reds, browns, some golden brown, but I want there to be a grout, like a kind of a dirty gray. So I'm going to use the vellum gray. Oops. And I'm going to add a little bit of nutmeg to it, 181. That was 103 vellum gray. 2 parts gray to like 1 part of the nutmeg. Okay, and then we need the liner brush. You can use the 3600 number 2. And I'm just gonna, I grabbed some water, I'm just gonna thin it as I go. And I'm not gonna make this kind of perfect. I'm just gonna kind of wiggle it. Irregular. So I'm just taking water and pushing that off of the olives there. Okay, so I'm going to take the small sumi brush and I'm going to put a little bit of this gray in some areas, but what I'm going to also do is take some of the CSP01 gloss medium and I'm going to put it in a well so that I can just kind of tap my brush into it. So I'm going to load with that gloss, tip into that gray and nutmeg mix, and I'm going to just create some shadows. The gloss will keep it kind of a watercolory look. Constantly touching into the gloss and then back into the color. Alright, so that just creates some shadows. And then I want to take 124 which is yellow ochre, and I want to 186 burnt sienna, and we'll grab some 187 raw umber, and some 111 red geranium. I am also going to put the gloss medium into those colors, like a half and half. Mix with the handle of your brush instead of the hairs. You will waste less product, because if you mix with the hairs, then you got to rinse each color out of your brush. So you won't waste as much doing this. Okay, so we're going to put all of these colors on those bricks. We are going to keep some of the gloss medium into the brush and then pick up each color and just determine where you want to apply that. And as I'm going to put it over the gray even, just because I want that to kind of be set back more in the background. So every time I'm picking up the gloss and the color, now I'm going to rinse. And with water, I'm going to kind of soften that edge of that gray. That one was a little strong. All right, so then I'm going to go back to the gloss. I'm going to tip into the red. And see how I'm just patting and blending. That kind of, I'm going to sneeze. And that red can come down over the top. Of your other colors, whatever it may be. And you may have a particular brick photo that you want to look at and try to replicate. Like I said, we're going to go back over. Rinse my brush, and I'm going to kind of soften that edge. Remember, multiple thin coats are better than one thick, heavy coat of anything. I'm going to put some more of the gloss medium out. I'm going to load with it. And this time I'm going to go into the 186 Burnt Sienna and kind of add some of that brown. Thinking I need to go at it from this direction. And I'm just kind of mushing that color. And it doesn't have to go all over. It can just be in a certain area. So maybe I want it on the bottom there. Because you've got the gloss medium in the brush and in the color, you can manipulate, and you have time that it stays open long enough that you can change, blend. Try to remember to tuck your color where you want it. So I'm tucking it on the side and I'm tucking it along the top. Okay. I'm going to rinse that and soften that edge there. Okay. Go back into the gloss. This time we're going into the 187 Raw Umber, which is the darker brown. And we're going to just add a little bit of that here and there, wherever you want it a little bit darker. I'm going to blot my brush out. I've got a lot of the gloss in there. And so this one I maybe want against this side. And then maybe we go up here. So the gloss medium, the keyword is medium. In the toll world, the word medium is an extender and opener. So the gloss medium keeps it open longer, the color, so that you can manipulate and work it and get what you want. Now, if you're on stoneware or porcelain, cone 5, cone 6, you only use it for spot glazing, which is kind of what we're doing here. You would never use it for a clear glaze. Okay. It's kind of cool. All right, so we also, I think I'll let it dry just a little bit and then come back with some more and then add some black on it also. And I may even, what I may do is just streak in some with the mop brush. Let's try the 187. So I'm just gonna put it just on the very tip and kind of wipe some of that out so it's very, can you see that? It's fuzzy. It's not got a nice edge at all. And you can kind of stroke that in from the edge. And it doesn't take much of it because you're just adding it on the top surface there. I think you can see the lines. And then I may go back and grab some of that red mix and do the same. With that. For our olives, they can be black, they can be greenish, they can have some purple in them. So let's do some 160 key lime. And I'm going to put out some 137 bright violet. And then we want to put out some 101 cobalt black. All right, and I do want to add a little bit of the medium to that, not as much as the other, so we'll say 2 parts color to 1 part medium. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of nutmeg 181 to the green mix. So maybe 3 drops. So I've probably got a nickel size of the 60 and then just added 3 drops of that in there. I like that color. It's very olivey. Okay. So we're going to take that green mix and I'm going to block in one coat of that green. So we're going to put a second coat of that green. This again is the small sumi. See how I'm taking it from both ends? You want to keep those strokes as minimal as possible. So then with the green still in the brush, I'm going to tip into the purple. And I'm just going to kind of pat some of that along the bottom and one side. So this could be as strong as you want. If you wanted them all purple or the black. So like on this one, I can cover most of that. Whoops. Got out of my space, so I want to quickly take that off with just some water. Put that green back into the brush. So if you want it all over, you can. You can brush it on. So maybe have some one way and some another way, so they look different. And then I'm going to put the green in the brush and I'm going to grab the black mix. The black is going to be extremely strong, so just a tiny bit on the brush. I'm going to do it on those that are underneath first, like it's a shadow, but then I'm going to pull that down. I'm also going to go back into some of that gloss medium just to get it a little more thin on my brush. Grab another brush with some water. Have it handy in case I need to push anything off. some gloss medium on it, and then tip into the green and a little bit of the black again. Alright, I think I'm going to rinse, and then I'm going to grab the gloss medium. Then I'm going to grab the purple. Then a tiny touch of black. Let's see how that. And I may go back and put more purple. Alright, so let's go just in the purple now. And I'm going to layer that on top of the green just because it'll change the look of it. Okay, we'll just let that. So can you see you've got some greens in there, you've got some purples, you got the black, and we'll just let that dry and then do our leaves. Okay, so the leaves need to be kind of a grayish green. Which in the color strokes we have Bright Oasis. It's CS667. That kind of olivey, which I made over here, so you could use that if you wanted. And then we have a grayish green color, which is smoky, and these are old labels, so don't look at that. 663. This is a really, really old bottle. Tells you how long they last. That's 16 years old. Okay, and then we need a little bit darker, or even some of the brighter. I think I'm going to go with the CC164 Mountain Pine. So it is a darker green per se. If you didn't have the color strokes, you could use 163 Shadow Green. So key is 6363, so same pigments, just different base. So you could do that also. And I'm going to put a little bit of the gloss medium into that 64 Mountain Pine. to basically turn it into a color stroke. But it's going to have more intense color. I'm going to switch to a round brush. This is the 2004 KB, meaning Kolinsky blend. Always wet your brushes, blot them. And then what I'm going to do is pretty much just pick up all the greens at the same time. You could use the Sumi brush if you wanted. It's just not going to give you the nice fine point that you can get with the round. So I'm going to fully load in the 667 Bright Oasis, grab a little bit of that 63 and even a little bit of the, Mountain Pine. And actually I'm going to do one on the back just to see if I like this look. Press, pull, 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 and come to a point. Dip, side load. I'm going to do another stroke right down the side of that. Alright, I'm thinking I need something just a hair darker. So I'm going to grab some Hunter Green CC 165. The darker the green, the thicker they are. Same with your browns. So I'm going to add the gloss medium to that. Alright, so if I had a little bit of that and then I grabbed the darker, I kind of like that look better. And I'm not going to rinse, I'm just going to tip and go. Okay. Alright, so I just stuck my finger in it. Not too bad. Alright, so load in the 67, 667, grab a little bit of that gray green, which is the 663, a little bit of the Mountain Pine, and go into a touch of that Hunter. And if you press all the way down, you can fan it out and get a fairly large leaf. But if you need to come back with a second coat or one to the side of it, you can do that. You can even come back and add the darker one later if you needed to. So I can grab some of that dark and kind of just run it along that side. Press, pull, lift, lift, lift to a point. Just going to grab what's there on my brush and bring that in. See how it just kind of variegates those colors. Now maybe I don't want the gray on one of them, I just want some of the greens. Or maybe you want the Bright Oasis and a little touch of the Hunter. I kind of like that combination. So that you have a little variation in the colors. This one's coming from the stem this way. I haven't went back on that gray, so I'm going to grab some of it for one of these, just so that it's, and I do have a chip in my plate. I didn't notice it till I already had some of this going, so. So as you can see, I've got way too much color out here. It goes a long ways. Okay, so doesn't take much. All right, let's go back up here and sneak this one in here. We've got the scroll work, which I think I'm going to be black, and I may tip into some of the that gray mix, or the gray 663 gray, smoky gray. Or maybe let's put that on our brush. This is the 5150 number one liner, any long script liner, and I'm going to drag through so I have some of that black on my brush. The big one here you're going to have to do in a couple of different strokes. Not even I can get that one. So I'm going to start it back here again. So what that gray green does is kind of gives you the illusion of like a wrought iron look to it. Remember, your pattern is a guide. Doesn't mean you have to do it exactly. I usually paint larger. So when you press down, you get thicker lines, lift up to curl it, and to get finer lines. Add some more black to that. Okay, we can do like the branches with the same combination just to keep it simple. So add some of that smoky. You can even go into the brighter oasis and a little touch of the black on there. This stem comes up here. And then with that one there. And by having all those colors on there, and the more pressure you put on the brush, you can get that variegated look. And we'll need a stem to that olive. We're going to come back and do some detailing. And no branch over there. Okay. Not too hard. All right, so if you wanted it, which I should have done it before I did my leaves, if you wanted the area up next to the bricks to have a shadow, you could do the medium sumi and water load, drag off to a point, tip into the burnt sienna mix, and you can tuck it up next to there. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. And you could add some of that for a little bit of a shadow. And that would be easier if you do it before you do your leaves. We add some more shadow in there. You could even do, you could put some brown on the leaves if you wanted to. It's really your choice. Or you can just take and create more of a turn back. So let's take that script liner, slightly thin some of that hunter, and we could come in here and add a few of those. So run it along the side and then curl it down. So start it on the edge, overlap it on top of what you've already got. So itty bitty line, more pressure, and then lift back up. So you want to do it on top of what you've got there. So since we need a little more separation here, I'm going to do it on that guy. So it doesn't have to be on all of them, but that kind of gives you a nice change throughout the design. All right, then I'm going to go to the 3600 number 2 liner, and the black that we have out has the medium in it and other colors, so I'm going to get some new black. I also want to put a highlight on the olives, but before I do that, let's do like a 602, which is more of the opaque white. 602 white. So it's more opaque. That's why I'm using it. And I'm just gonna it's a thicker color, so it's harder to get fine. All right. I think before I do the black, I'm going to take thin down some of the 187 mix. Try this on a leaf. So that adds a little bit more brown into that. It kind of ties the brown from the bricks into the design. All right, so you can see the brown in there. Okay. Now we're going to thin down the black. And the first thing I want to do is I want to catch the edge of that wall. Give it kind of a broken type look. Real hit and miss. Okay. So I'm only going to do the center vein of the leaves, just because I don't want that much black on there. And we're going to accent these scrolls also, just to kind of reinforce. Not the whole thing. Well, I've got this in my brush, so I'm going to assign it, and then I can come back and add. I think I will use the stencil brush, and I'm going to grab and use the smaller one. This is the size 12. Okay, so it just gives it kind of a dirty. Kind of look. I like it. All right, so I need to put the edge on it. And I think I'm going to go with the Bright Oasis. Got quite a bit of it out here. So, and the 1-inch foam brush. Remember, it's like a house, so your plate is only going to touch it on the roof, right in the center of it. The wheel is just to aid you in turning that piece so that you can get a nice even edge. Now I have that broken place here, so I'm going to have to kind of touch in there and make it work. So the wheel is just an aid in turning. Put a couple coats on, let it dry, and then come back and put a couple more. Sometimes you have to tap it right on that edge. This is on top of that brown that's on there, so I need a little help there. Okay, so I'll come back and do some of that. I want to mist it and show you what it looks like. There you go. All right, you need to put 2 coats of clear glaze. If you're earthenware, use the CSP 01 NT Clear, 2 coats, and you will see your color through the glaze. And if you're on stoneware, you want to use Mako SW004 Zinc Free Clear. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the project, and happy painting.